Ever get that feeling, like when you're looking at a plastic container and you can't help but wonder what might be like seeping into your food?
It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
Totally. And today we're going deep on those hidden food contact chemicals. FCCs for short.
Trust me, it's a world most people don't realize they're swimming in every time they eat.
We've got a stack of fresh research for you, hot off the presses.
Oh, this is exciting.
The big one. A 2024 study from the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology. It's published by the very credible Springer Nature. And these researchers, get this, they analyzed a jaw-dropping 14,402 known FCCs.
14,402.
14,402. Not a typo.
Makes you wonder.
It's in those takeout containers, right?
It's definitely eye-opening and a little concerning, to be honest.
For sure, but it's not about freaking out. It's about getting informed.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, as they say.
And what's fascinating here is they found traces of 3,601 of these chemicals in actual human samples.
Wow.
So this isn't some hypothetical risk. This is impacting us right now.
That's the thing about exposure science. It's not always immediate dramatic effects. This study gives us a roadmap of what chemicals need way more research. Remember the whole BPA scare a few years back?
How can I forget? Everyone was tossing out their plastic water bottles.
Exactly. BPA was everywhere, yet we knew so little about its long-term effects. Now, this study highlights tons of other chemicals just as common in packaging that we know even less about: antioxidants, photoinitiators, oligomers. The list goes on.
Okay, time for a jargon check. Antioxidants, I thought those were good for you, like in blueberries and stuff.
You're right. Antioxidants in food are beneficial, but the ones used in packaging are a different breed. We're talking industrial chemicals added to plastics and coatings. The study found these everywhere, and yet the long-term impact on our health, it's a mystery.
Okay, so we've got our usual suspect chemicals and these mysterious antioxidants. What else did this study uncover?
Well, things get even more interesting when we dig into the types of FCCs.
Okay.
Let's break them down into a few key categories, just to wrap our heads around it all.
Love a good category breakdown.
First, we've got what I call the hidden everywhere category.
Okay.
And surprise, surprise, antioxidants are the ringleaders here.
Really?
Yeah, they're used in massive quantities, like huge amounts, to help packaging materials last longer on the shelves.
Right.
But the lack of data on their long-term impact on human health, a bit concerning to say the least.
So while companies are focused on their products' shelf life, they might be overlooking the impact on our shelf life, so to speak.
It's a question worth considering, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then we have what I call the oligomer mystery.
Ooh, this sounds intriguing, like a detective novel.
Right, so these are byproducts of the manufacturing process. Really, really hard to study.
Okay.
Limited evidence so far on their health effects, but guess what? They're hanging out in many common plastics.
The kind we use every single day.
You got it. The kind we use all the time without even thinking twice.
So we've got the hidden everywhere antioxidants, the mysterious oligomers. What other chemical characters are lurking in our food packaging?
Let's not forget about the photoinitiators more than meets the eye category.
Okay, those sound even more intense.
These are used in, coatings and inks to help them dry and cure properly.
Right.
And while some have been linked to health problems, the research on many of them is still in its, early stages,
So we don't really know the full story yet.
Exactly. And the real kicker here is that even if a single photoinitiator seems, harmless on its own, what happens when it mixes with the hundreds of other chemicals we encounter daily?
Okay, I'm starting to feel like my lunch bag is a chemistry experiment gone wrong.
It's not about instilling fear, though, right? It's about understanding the complexity of the issue.
No, totally. I get that.
This study is like shining a spotlight on a system that's been operating in the dark for far too long,
Yeah, I do. It's a lot to process.
It is.
So where do we go from here? What's a takeaway for our listeners? Because right now I'm feeling a mix of fascinated and slightly horrified. This study feels like, just the tip of the iceberg, right? It tells us what chemicals they're finding, but what about the long-term consequences? That's what I really want to know.
You've hit on one of the biggest research gaps for sure, those long-term effects, especially from combined exposure.
Right.
Because we're exposed to a cocktail of these chemicals daily. Right. It's not just one in isolation.
Right. It's like, okay, I can handle a sip of this, a nibble of that. But what happens when it's all mixed together year after year?
It's a critical question, and one that researchers are, really trying to unravel.
Yeah.
We need more sophisticated studies, like those that track populations over long periods, monitoring their exposure to multiple FCCs. and looking for patterns in health outcomes.
So kind of like those long-term studies on diet and heart disease, but for chemicals and packaging.
Precisely. And we also need more research on how these chemicals break down in the body, their metabolism.
Okay.
Because some might seem harmless initially, but their byproducts could be the real troublemakers.
Oh, wow. So it's not even just the initial chemical, it's what it turns into inside of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Okay, so long-term studies, metabolism research. Anything else we're missing in the big picture?
Well, we can't forget about vulnerable populations.
Right.
Pregnant women, infants, children,
Of course.
their developing bodies might be far more susceptible to these chemicals.
It's like how some medications are not safe for kids because their systems are still developing. It's the same idea with these chemicals.
Exactly. And, let's not limit this to just human health. What about the environmental impact?
Oh, right, because it's not just about us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where do these FCCs end up once they leach out of packaging? Do they linger in our water, our soil? These are questions we need answers to.
It's like every answer just leads to more questions, which is kind of exciting in a way, but also a little overwhelming, to be honest.
That's the beauty of science, though, right? It's a constant journey of discovery. And while this study might feel overwhelming, remember, it's also empowering.
Okay, good point.
We're not powerless here.
Right. Knowledge is power. Now we've got a bit more of that in our arsenal. So what's the final takeaway? If someone's listening to this, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, what do they do with this information?
First, take a deep breath. Don't let fear paralyze you, right?
Easier said than done some days.
I know. But this isn't about becoming a hermit who only eats food grown in their backyard.
Although sometimes it's tempting.
It's about making informed choices, right? Read labels, support companies prioritizing transparency and sustainable packaging, choose reusable options whenever possible. Every little bit helps.
And maybe channel a little of that meal prepping friends energy.
Exactly. But most importantly, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking questions. The more we demand from our food system, the better it will become. This study is a call to action for both individuals and for the system as a whole.
I love that, a call to action. So next time you're unpacking groceries or grabbing takeout, remember what we've uncovered today. Those containers, they're more than just vessels for your food. They're a glimpse into a complex world of chemistry and its impact on our lives. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and make those informed choices. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.